Well, hello folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you, and let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up the screen. All right, Aitx and Knightscope. We're going to do a little comparison of the two companies, talk about dilution and a few things going on with that. But first, we need to talk about what's going on in the world right now. It's crazy. As you know, Ukraine's been invaded by Putin, who's decided that's what he wanted to do. And I showed you, well, I'll show you pictures of him. Yeah, he decided to invade. And like I said, when you look at these pictures, it probably doesn't surprise you any. This guy's going to do what he wants. He's not going to negotiate. He's just, he's not a bluffer, and he's going to do what he's going to do. So I'm not a bit surprised. You're probably not either. But it did happen, and it's not good. And what I wasn't going to do is come on here and just start covering Aitx or Knightscope and act like this.
Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
Yeah, definitely not. There's a lot going on. And when we woke up this morning, or at least I did, the stock market was down 800 points in pre-market. And I was looking at a few different stocks to buy, and I bought some crypto as well when it was down real low. But since then, it's improved a bunch. The stock market got a lot better. And I think part of that is that people aren't assuming now that we're going to see a full half-point interest rate increase. I think everybody's thinking now it's just going to be a quarter of a point. And that obviously helped the market. And there was also the issue of the sanctions against Russia, and they didn't include the SWIFT sanctions. So I think that calmed the market a little bit. So, we'll see how this affects everything moving forward, but it's not good. A country invading another one it's no bueno. It's not good at all. And I wish it hadn't happened. I'm sure the people in Ukraine wish it hadn't happened. It's very tragic, really. But let's get into Aitx and Knightscope, do a little comparison of the two companies and talk about them a little bit. We'll start out, we'll talk about the products a little bit, and then we'll get into the financials. But their products, they seem fairly similar to me. This guy reminds me of the Scott a little bit. And this one reminds me a little bit of the Romeo. It also reminds me a little bit of this guy.
Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile.
Yeah, a little bit like that guy on this one. And again, this one's a little bit kind of like a Romeo, I guess. A little bit different, but, very similar as far as what I would assume it does. And I won't show all the different RAD devices, Aitx. I've covered them a whole bunch on this channel, and I'm sure you've seen them all. Between the Scott and the Rosa. Rosa's their best selling, and then the Romeo's the coolest. But they've also got Ava and a couple of others. So it appears to me that the products are fairly similar. Now, let's get into the financials of the two companies. All right, now this is a semi-annual report. It wasn't that easy to get these reports on Knightscope. But anyway, their revenue for the 6 months ending June of last year, they did 1.7 million, and they lost a bunch of money. They lost 11.6 million in operations for the 6 months. So they're losing money. Their balance sheet as the end of June 30th, they had about 12 million in cash. So they're a little bit better off than Aitx as far as their balance sheet, but it's still upside down. They've got 17 million in assets and then 20 million in liabilities. Now understand they've gone to the NASDAQ, and I think they've raised about 40 million bucks at least. I did see that in one of their documents. So I think their balance sheet will probably be looking pretty good. It should. I mean, they just launched onto the NASDAQ. So that's normally when they raise a pretty good chunk of money. So I'd say their balance sheet looks pretty good. But again, they are losing money, and I'm sure that's continuing at this point, I would think. That's my estimate. And then as we look at Aitx, this is as of November of 2021, they had like 4 million in cash, and they had about 9 million on their assets. And they're, as you can see, they're upside down on their balance sheet. They've got 25 million in liabilities, so they're upside down. So their balance sheet is not quite as good as Knightscope, and I'm sure Knightscope's probably improved that, I'm sure, with the listing on NASDAQ. And I think that's one of the reasons why Steve has mentioned that as a possibility. But he was just discussing that. He said if they're successful, and right now it's hard to say whether or not moving the NASDAQ's been successful for them or not. I would call it semi-successful for sure at this point, but I don't know if it's been fully successful or if it's enough to get Steve to consider doing that. Steve Reinhardt's the CEO of Aitx. So to me, it looks like the balance sheet's a little better for Knightscope, but perhaps the profit and loss may be just a little bit better for Aitx, although I'm comparing 6 months versus 3 months, so they're somewhat similar. Now, as far as market cap goes, Aitx, they've got a market cap of right here, 69 million total. And let's see what Knightscope is. And Knightscope, let's pull down here. They've got a market cap of 91 million. So a little bit larger market cap, but again, they've listed on NASDAQ, so I would expect them. I'm actually surprised it's not a little bigger than this. But, you know, like I say, right now, this is the type of stock that's getting hammered, just like Aitx, because they don't have earnings, they don't have profits, and a company that's technically high growth, no profits, is not going to fare very well right now. And we'll look at the chart here in a minute, and we'll obviously see that. And this is a 1 month chart of Knightscope. As you can see, they had a huge run up. They ran all the way up to 26 bucks, which is all hype pretty much. And it's pulled way back down since then and sort of leveled out. Now it's sitting at about $6.60, well, $6.50. So, you know, it's kind of come back down to earth. And like I say, their market cap's come way back down too. And let's see what's going on with Aitx. And Aitx is sitting at 1.6 cent. And of course, they've got a lot more outstanding shares than Knightscope does, so that one makes sense. But it is staying above a little bit of support at 1.5 cent. Let me run that over, get that level. So it's staying a little bit above that. It was down today about 4% as of close. So it's kind of hanging in there. It's, you know, it's doing okay compared to a lot of the other OTC stocks that are out there struggling. Now, one of the big issues for Aitx that has me a little bit concerned, you know, you saw where they had like $4 million in their balance sheet, and if you notice, they lost about $6 million for the quarter. So they obviously are raising money, and they're doing that through an S1, I believe. Let me double check that. Well, basically, they just sell their shares to a company. I can't remember the name of the company they're selling to, but it's normally 90 cents on the dollar, and they go ahead and get a lump sum of money, and then that company sells those shares on the open market. And of course, they hope the shares go up, but they do have that 10% buffer in there. But anyway, this company's got outstanding shares of 4.7 billion, 4.733, and they have authorized of 5 billion. And they need to raise about 6 million a quarter right now based on their profit and loss statement, unless their revenues start really rising. So at 1.5 cent, you know, they're going to have to continue to sell outstanding shares. And I'm not exactly sure what the plan is on that. He said he had asked me anything. I did watch that. He said that he has many options as far as that's concerned. And like I said, I don't know if he's still considering uplisting NASDAQ or anything along those lines. I actually asked that question during the AMA, but he had a bunch of other questions. He never got to that one, and that's okay. I understand that. But anyway, there is the possibility that he will, you know, he may have to extend the authorized shares to a larger amount, or he had mentioned something about crypto, and I didn't know if he was going to do a crypto coin or what the deal was with that. But anyway, we'll see. He did mention crypto a couple of times. He didn't ask me anything, as I recall. And one thing about Aitx, you can see the short volume is up to 45%. So even though the stock is down, there's a lot of people shorting this stock. And you'll see a lot of negativity out there on social media trying to push it down. And some of that may be these folks. It's hard to say, but that's a high percentage. 20% is considered high, 44% is really high. So, you know, you've got some people hoping to push this down so they can make money. And understand, when somebody shorts a stock, what they do is they rent it from somebody that's holding it long term, pay them a small amount of money, and then they run to the market and sell it real fast, and that puts downward pressure on the stock. And then at some point later on, a week, a month, however long, they have to rebuy that, and they're hoping to rebuy it at a lower price, and they can keep that difference from what they sold it from and then what they buy it back at, and that difference is what they make. So, you know, they're trying to make a bunch of money as quick as they can, and some of them even try to push it down by going on social media and, saying negative stuff. But, that's basically how shorting works. Now, I always tell you folks what I'm doing, on a stock. And right now, I'm on the outside looking in. I have tried to trade this a couple of times, swing trade it, and I haven't been successful. I made a little bit of money one time and lost a little bit the other time, and I just haven't been successful. I might pick some up here. I might not. It just depends. I'm concerned about dilution and the raising of money, and I need to see a little better clarity on that. And I'd like to see their sales increase. I know at one point they thought maybe last quarter they were going to do just shy of $1 million, I believe is what was put out as guidance, or at least an estimation. And they didn't hit that. They were like 370 or something. So I wasn't comfortable with that. And I need to see that balance sheet improve. So, right now I'm on the outside looking in, and I'm waiting for either that balance sheet to improve or a big sale to happen. And like I said, I know there's a bunch that could happen. He has discussed a 50 sale possibility, 100 sale possibility, probably of ROSAs and things along those lines. But until I see a little bit more tangible evidence of this thing kind of turning around a little bit, I'm still on the sidelines, and just being frank with you. Because here's the deal. It's really hard to speculate right now on the OTC. You need some concrete reasons why, because this market is super creepy, and I'm going to bring my assistant in.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
That's right, danger. This is a very dangerous time in the OTC. You need to be careful. I practice a 10% rule. I only put 10% of my portfolio in the OTC, and that's it, because it's risky. Now, I enjoy the risk. I like the volatility. The possibility of reward can be really high, but that risk is really high too. So 10% is the max I do. It's your money. You can do whatever you want, but that's what I do. All right, folks, and that's Aitx today. And I had several requests to cover Aitx. I hadn't in about a week or two. And I wanted to do a little comparison on Knightscope because there's been some discussion of that. Both of these stocks are very new companies, pretty much. They're really in a new sector. So I like the sector they're in. And right now, people just it hadn't caught on quite enough yet. But I think it's the future of security for sure, because let's face it, payrolls are going through the roof and it's skyrocketing. So this is obviously the answer. I'm not sure which one of these two is going to be the winner, or they may both be winners, or they may, who knows, it could be a buyout at some point for either one or both. But anyway, that's Aitx today. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover Aitx. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, give the channel a chance. I'd certainly appreciate it. And I hope you did like the content. And we'll see you next time on Mr. Frugal Investor.